The rejected Omega took shelter in a forest shack until the Alpha King knocked, saying her name. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character. Lena had always known she wasn't like the other Omegas. In the world of shifters, Omegas were meant to be delicate, powerful in their own subtle ways. But Lena, she was different. She could never shift into wolf form like her peers, and it made her feel less than. Rejected by her pack, she had nothing left but to flee. She found herself in the heart of the forest, the wind whispering through the trees as she trudged deeper into the woods. Every step felt heavy, each breath a reminder of her rejection. She stumbled upon an old, worn-down shack, nestled between towering pines. It wasn't much, but it was shelter, and for now, it was all she had. She moved inside, wrapping herself in the solitude of the small space, the echoes of the world outside growing dimmer with each passing hour. The shack creaked and groaned, a sharp contrast to the quiet stillness around her. She tried to sleep, but the pain of her abandonment kept her awake. Little did she know, her life was about to change in the most unexpected way. As the moon reached its zenith, casting silver light over the forest floor, there came a knock at the door, a sound that sent a shiver down her spine. She hesitated, fear creeping into her chest. Who would be out here at this time of night? She took a step forward, heart pounding in her chest, and opened the door. Standing there in the dim light was a figure. A man, tall and broad-shouldered, with an aura of power and authority that radiated from him even in the silence of the night. His eyes met hers, and for a moment, she couldn't breathe. Those eyes. Silver. Familiar. It was as if the entire forest held its breath. With her. Lena, he said, his voice a deep, commanding rumble that sent a wave of recognition crashing through her. The words were simple, yet they held the weight of destiny itself. And in that moment, Lena knew her life would never be the same again. I stood frozen, my breath caught in my chest as I looked into the eyes of the man who had just spoken my name. Lena, he repeated, and the sound of it stirred something deep within me, something I couldn't explain. My pulse raced as I tried to make sense of the figure standing in front of me. The man was tall, his broad shoulders radiating strength, but there was something else in his presence, a sense of power, of dominance that I had never experienced before. His eyes, silver and piercing, seemed to see right through me. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words caught in my throat. Who was he? Why was he here? My heart beat faster, the confusion clouding my mind. Who are you? I finally managed to whisper, my voice barely audible. The man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he took a step closer, his gaze never leaving mine. I'm Kale, he said, his voice smooth and commanding. Alpha King of the Northern Territories. My mind reeled. Alpha King? He couldn't be. The Alpha King was a legend, someone who ruled over all the packs with an iron fist. But why would he be here, in this remote part of the forest, standing in front of me? I stepped back, unsure of what to do. My mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. I was just an Omega, a weak, broken Omega who couldn't even shift. Why was he here, and what did he want from me? He seemed to notice my hesitation and gave me a soft, almost imperceptible smile. You're wondering why I'm here, he said, as though reading my thoughts. I'm here because of you, Lena. You're the one I've been searching for. I shook my head, my heart pounding in my chest. What do you mean? I asked, my voice trembling. I'm no one. I'm nothing. He stepped forward, closing the distance between us, his presence overwhelming. That's where you're wrong, he said softly, his tone almost tender. You are everything I need. I took a step back, my head spinning. But why me? I'm nothing but a failure. I've been rejected by my pack, abandoned by my own family. No one wants me. Kale's eyes softened as he reached out, gently cupping my face in his hand. You've been rejected by them, yes. But not by me. I've been looking for you, Lena. For years. His words were like a balm to my broken heart, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of hope. You've been looking for me? I whispered. He nodded. Yes. You are my fated mate, Lena. the one I've been destined to find. His words sent a shock through me. Fated mate? Me? I had always heard the stories, how alphas found their fated mates, how their bond was unbreakable. But I had never imagined that it would happen to me. The Omega who couldn't even shift, who was cast aside by everyone. I didn't know how to respond. My emotions were a tangled mess. Part of me wanted to believe him, to believe that I was more than just an outcast. But another part of me feared that it was all a cruel joke, that I would only end up hurt again. Kale seemed to sense my doubt. I know this is hard for you to understand, he said, his voice gentle but firm. But I'm here to tell you that you are not alone. You never have been. I've been waiting for you, Lena. And now that I've found you, nothing will tear us apart. His words were like a promise, a vow that rang through me. The fear that had gripped my heart began to ease, replaced by a growing sense of warmth. I had never felt like this before, like I was finally seen for who I was, not for what I couldn't do. Kale's hand dropped from my face, but the warmth of his touch lingered. He took a step back, his eyes never leaving mine. You don't have to say anything right now, he said, but I want you to know that I'm here for you. You don't have to hide anymore. You're safe now. I nodded, unable to find the words to express the overwhelming emotions coursing through me. I had never imagined that my life could change so drastically in a single moment. But here I was, standing in front of the Alpha King, the man, who claimed me as his mate, his fated one. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had a chance at something more. Something beautiful. Come with me, Kale said, his voice soft but commanding. I will take you home. Home. The word felt foreign to me, but it also felt like a promise. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of everything I had lost and everything I had gained. With Kale by my side, I knew that my journey was only just beginning. I followed Kale, my heart pounding in my chest, as he led me through the dark forest. Every step we took felt like a step into the unknown, but for some reason, I didn't feel afraid. There was something comforting in his presence, something that made me feel safe, like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. The forest around us was quiet. The only sound was the soft crunch of leaves beneath our feet. The moon hung low in the sky, casting its pale light on the path ahead, as if guiding us. Kale didn't say anything as we walked, but I could feel the weight of his gaze on me, and I knew he was watching me closely. I tried to steady my breath, trying to push aside the overwhelming emotions that were bubbling up inside me. This was all so surreal. A few hours ago, I had been alone in that shack, feeling abandoned and forgotten. And now, here I was, walking beside the Alpha King, the man who had claimed me as his mate. My mind raced as I tried to process everything. You don't have to be scared, Kale said, breaking the silence, his voice soft but steady. You're safe now. I'm here to protect you. His words were like a balm to my soul, soothing the anxiety that had been gnawing at me since I had left my pack behind. I'm not scared, I replied quietly, though I wasn't sure if I believed my own words. I just don't understand. Why me? He glanced at me, his silver eyes reflecting the moonlight. You're my fated mate, Lena, he said simply, his voice carrying a quiet strength. There is no explanation for it. We were meant to find each other. And now that we have, nothing will tear us apart. I felt a strange flutter in my chest at his words, a warmth spreading through me, but the doubt still lingered. How could this be real? How could someone like me, an Omega who couldn't even shift, be the mate of an Alpha King? I opened my mouth to say something, but before I could, Kale stopped suddenly. We're almost there, he said, looking ahead. I followed his gaze, and in the distance, I saw a large building looming against the dark sky. It was a grand palace, made of stone, with tall towers reaching up toward the heavens. The sight of it took my breath away. I had never seen anything like it. Is that? I trailed off, unable to finish my question. Kale smiled softly. Yes, that's my home. Our home. The weight of his words hit me all at once. I had no home, no pack, no place in the world. But now, somehow, I was going to have all of that. I was going to be with Kale, the Alpha King, in his palace. My heart beat faster as we approached the gates. The guards standing at attention opened the massive doors for us without a word. Kale's presence commanded respect, and I could feel the power that emanated from him, even in the air around us. As we entered the palace, I couldn't help but feel overwhelmed. The grandeur of it all was unlike anything I had ever imagined. The walls were adorned with tapestries depicting scenes of battles and triumphs, and the floor beneath our feet was made of polished marble. "This is incredible," I whispered, unable to contain my awe. Kale chuckled softly. "It's not much," he said, "but it's home." We walked down a long corridor, the sound of our footsteps echoing in the silence. I couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder at how everything looked, how everything felt, so foreign to me. I had been living in isolation, in the shadows of my rejection, and now I was here, in the heart of the world I had never known. As we reached a large set of double doors, Kale paused and turned to face me. "This is where we will begin," he said, his voice low and serious. "You are no longer alone, Lena. You are my Luna now, and I will do everything in my power to protect you, to make sure you are safe and happy here with me." His words settled in my chest like a heavy weight, but there was something else in them, something that made my heart swell with a mixture of hope and fear. I had been rejected, cast aside by everyone I knew, and now here I was, standing in front of the Alpha King, being told that I was his Luna, his mate. It didn't feel real. But as Kale reached out and gently cupped my face, I felt a warmth spreading through me, a connection between us that was undeniable. This was real. This was happening. And as he leaned in and kissed me softly, I felt a sense of peace I had never known before, as though I had finally found my place in the world. Kale pulled back and looked at me with a smile. "Welcome home, Lena," he whispered. And in that moment, I knew that everything was going to be different from now on. I woke up the next morning with the soft rays of sunlight filtering through the heavy curtains of the grand bedroom. For a moment, I thought I had imagined the events of the night before, the words Kale had spoken, the kiss that had sparked something deep inside me. But when I opened my eyes and saw the opulent surroundings, I realized it was all real. This was no dream. I was in the Alpha King's palace, in a bed that felt like it was made of clouds. My body was still adjusting to the overwhelming feelings of safety and comfort, things I had never truly known before. I sat up slowly, the silence of the room pressing in on me, and for a moment, I allowed myself to just breathe. I had been so caught up in my fears and doubts that I hadn't taken the time to fully process everything that had happened. Just a few days ago, I had been wandering through the woods, lost and rejected, and now I was here, with the Alpha King. My mind raced with 1,000 questions, but one question kept coming back to the front of my mind. Why me? Why had Kale, of all people, chosen me? I wasn't special, not in the way he was. He was powerful, revered by all, while I was weak, a broken omega. What did he see in me? My thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a soft knock at the door. I stood up quickly, smoothing out my clothes, and called, "Come in." The door creaked open, and a servant stepped inside, holding a tray of food. "Good morning, Lady Lena," the servant said with a respectful bow. "The Alpha King has asked that you join him for breakfast." My heart skipped a beat at the mention of Kale. I nodded, my voice barely a whisper. "Thank you," I said. The servant placed the tray on the table and left, closing the door softly behind them. I took a deep breath and walked toward the table, my mind still reeling. I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. This wasn't just a normal breakfast. This was my new reality, and it felt like everything was happening so fast. As I sat down and began to eat, I couldn't help but notice how different everything felt. The food was rich and flavorful, something I had never tasted before. The palace was beautiful, a far cry from the small, humble home I had known. Everything was so grand, but it didn't feel like mine. Not yet. I finished my meal in silence, my mind still racing. I didn't know what to expect when I met Kale again, but I knew that things were about to change. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure if I was ready. A few moments later, there was another knock at the door, this time a little more urgent. I stood up quickly and walked to the door, my heart beating faster. "Lena," a familiar voice called from the other side. It was Kale. My breath caught in my chest as I opened the door to see him standing there, looking as powerful and commanding as ever. His silver eyes softened when he saw me. "Are you ready to come with me?" he asked, his voice steady, yet filled with a warmth that made my heart flutter. I nodded, my nerves giving way to a sense of excitement I couldn't deny. "Yes," I whispered, barely able to contain the rush of emotions that swept over me. He smiled at me and offered his arm. "Then let's go." I took a deep breath and placed my hand on his arm, the touch sending a jolt of warmth through me. As we walked together through the grand halls of the palace, I couldn't help but feel like I was walking into a new chapter of my life, one that was full of unknowns, but also full of promise. We reached a large, ornate door at the end of the hall, and Kale stopped. He turned to face me, his expression serious yet soft. "I know this is a lot to take in," he said, his voice low, "but I want you to know that I'm here for you. You don't have to be afraid." I looked up at him, my heart swelling with emotions I couldn't fully explain. "I'm not afraid," I said, my voice stronger than I expected. "I'm just not sure what to expect." Kale smiled, his silver eyes gleaming with understanding. "You don't have to have all the answers right now, Lena. You just have to trust me. Trust us." He opened the door, and as we stepped inside, I was greeted by a room filled with people, high-ranking members of the pack, all looking at us with a mixture of curiosity and respect. "This is where it all begins," Kale said, his voice steady as he led me into the center of the room. I could feel the eyes of everyone on me, but instead of the usual shame and fear I felt when I was in the spotlight, I felt something different this time. I felt seen. "Lena," Kale said, turning to face me, "I want you to know that you are my Luna now. You are my equal, and together, we will lead this pack. This is our destiny." His words echoed in the room, and for the first time, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel invisible. I felt like I mattered, like I had a place. And it was with him, Kale, the Alpha King. I stood in the center of the room, surrounded by the pack members who had gathered to witness the announcement. Kale's words still rang in my ears, his declaration of me being his Luna. The weight of the moment settled over me like a heavy cloak, but unlike before, this time, it didn't feel suffocating. I could feel the eyes of everyone in the room on me, watching my every move. But this time, there was no shame, no doubt. There was only the undeniable connection I felt to Kale and the deep understanding that, for the first time in my life, I was exactly where I was meant to be. Kale stood beside me, his presence a constant source of strength, and his hand, warm and firm, rested gently on my back. His touch was a silent reassurance, a reminder that I wasn't alone. He had chosen me, and though it had been so unexpected, I had chosen him too. "Lena," Kale's voice cut through the silence, bringing me back to the present. "I want you to meet the rest of the pack. They're your family now, just as you are mine." I nodded, my heart beating faster as Kale led me forward. We walked toward the circle of pack members, and I could feel their eyes on me, each gaze a mix of curiosity, respect, and, in some cases, skepticism. I had never been part of something like this before. I had always been an outcast, someone who didn't belong, but now, I was standing in the heart of it all. I was part of something bigger than myself. The Alpha King's Luna. The thought still felt foreign, like it belonged to someone else, but it was mine now. As we reached the group, Kale turned to face me, his silver eyes meeting mine with a look of encouragement. He then addressed the pack, his voice steady and commanding. "This is Lena," he said, "my Luna, and the future of our pack. We are bound by destiny, and together, we will lead this pack to greatness." I could feel the pack's gaze shift from Kale to me, their reactions mixed but, for the most part, accepting. Some of them nodded, others exchanged whispers, but no one dared to question Kale's words. He was the Alpha King, and his word was law. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, my heart pounding in my chest. I had never been in the spotlight like this, never been looked at with such intensity, but now, I had no choice. I had to face this moment with strength, just as Kale had shown me. "Thank you," I said, my voice quiet but steady, "for accepting me." There was a slight pause, and then Kale gave me a small, approving nod. "You don't need to thank them," he said softly. "They're already family." The pack members seemed to relax at his words, and slowly, the tension in the room began to ease. I could feel the subtle shift, the change in the air. I wasn't just Kale's Luna in name. I was truly becoming a part of this world, of this family. The rest of the day passed in a blur of introductions and discussions, but through it all, Kale never left my side. He was always there, his presence a constant source of support and reassurance. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the palace, we stood together on the balcony, looking out over the land. "Are you all right?" Kale asked, his voice low and filled with concern. I nodded, feeling the weight of the day's events slowly settling into my bones. I whispered. I'm just still trying to take it all in. Kale turned to face me, his eyes softening as he reached out to take my hand. You don't have to figure it all out right now, he said gently. We have time. We'll do this together. His words brought a sense of calm to my racing mind, and for the first time, I allowed myself to relax, to let go of the fear and uncertainty that had been clouding my thoughts. I was with him now, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel alone. I felt like I finally belonged. Thank you, I said softly, squeezing his hand. He smiled at me, the warmth of his gaze melting away the last remnants of doubt. You don't need to thank me, he said. This is just the beginning, Lena. We're in this together, always. I smiled back at him, my heart swelling with emotions I couldn't put into words. We were no longer just two strangers brought together by fate. We were partners, mates, and together, we would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, I wasn't afraid. With Kale by my side, I knew I could face anything. I woke up to the sound of birds chirping outside the palace windows. The soft light of the morning filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow across the room. For a moment, I lay there, not wanting to move, not wanting to leave the comfort of the bed. But as the events of the previous day came rushing back to me, I realized that things had changed forever. I was no longer the rejected Omega, the one who had been abandoned by her pack. I was now Kale's Luna, his mate, and the future of his pack. The weight of that reality hit me like a wave, but somehow, I wasn't afraid. Kale had promised me that we would face this together, and I believed him. I could feel the connection between us growing stronger with each passing moment. The bond that had been formed when we first met was undeniable, and it was something I had never experienced before. I had always felt like an outsider, like I didn't belong anywhere, but now, with Kale, I felt like I had finally found my place in the world. I stood up and stretched, taking in the beauty of the room around me. The walls were adorned with rich tapestries, and the large four-poster bed in the center of the room looked as if it had been made for royalty. It was all so overwhelming, but at the same time, it felt like a dream come true. I walked over to the window, looking out over the sprawling grounds of the palace. The sun was rising, casting its golden light over the trees and the distant mountains. I had never seen anything so beautiful in my life. It was hard to believe that this was now my life. I was no longer just a broken Omega. I was Lena, the Luna of the Alpha King. Just as I was lost in thought, there was a soft knock at the door. Lena, Kale's voice called from the other side. I smiled, feeling my heart flutter in my chest at the sound of his voice. Yes, I replied, turning to face the door. It opened, and Kale stepped inside, looking as handsome as ever. His silver eyes met mine, and a soft smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Good morning, he said, his voice low and comforting. I wanted to check on you. I smiled back at him, feeling the warmth of his presence fill the room. I'm fine, I said softly, just taking it all in. Kale stepped closer, his hand reaching out to gently caress my cheek. You don't have to take it all in alone, he said. I'm here for you, Lena. Whatever you need, I will be by your side. His words sent a shiver down my spine, and I felt my heart swell with emotion. I had never known such kindness, such unconditional support. It was all so new to me, but it felt like exactly what I had been waiting for my entire life. Thank you, I whispered, my voice filled with gratitude. Kale smiled and leaned down, pressing a soft kiss to my forehead. You don't have to thank me, he said. This is just the beginning. We have a long road ahead of us, but we will walk it together. I nodded, feeling the truth of his words settle deep within me. This was just the beginning of our journey. Together, we would face whatever challenges came our way. But for the first time in my life, I felt ready. Ready to be the Luna of the Alpha King, ready to lead beside him, and ready to embrace the love and the future that awaited us. As we left the room and walked through the halls of the palace, I could feel the eyes of the pack members on us. But this time, it didn't make me nervous. I was no longer the outcast, the one who had been rejected. I was Lena, the Luna, and I had a place here. I could feel Kale's hand resting lightly on my back, his presence a constant reassurance. With him by my side, I knew that I could face anything. We reached the grand hall, where the pack members had gathered for the morning briefing. Kale took his place at the head of the table, and I stood beside him, feeling a sense of pride swell within me. This was my new life. This was my new purpose. I wasn't just an Omega anymore. I was the Luna of the Alpha King, and I would fight for our pack, for our future, with everything I had. I stood at the head of the long table in the grand hall, my heart beating faster as I looked around at the pack members seated before me. Kale stood beside me, his presence as commanding as ever, and I could feel his gaze on me, steady and reassuring. This was my new reality. I wasn't just the rejected Omega anymore. I was the Luna, the Alpha King's mate, and I was about to help lead this pack. The weight of that responsibility was heavy, but at the same time, it filled me with a sense of purpose I had never known before. I took a deep breath and glanced around at the faces of the pack. They were all waiting for me to speak, to step into this new role I had been thrust into. I had always been someone who preferred to stay in the shadows, someone who never wanted to draw attention to myself. But now, I had no choice. I had to step forward. "Good morning, everyone," I said, my voice steady but filled with uncertainty. The room was silent, the eyes of the pack fixed on me. I know that many of you may have doubts about me, about my place here, but I want you to know that I am here to serve you, to be the Luna that this pack deserves. I felt Kale's hand rest lightly on my shoulder, his touch a reminder that I wasn't alone in this. "Together, we will face the challenges ahead," I continued, feeling more confident with each word. "We will build a future where this pack thrives, where no one is left behind." I paused for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest. I had never spoken in front of so many before, but I knew this was a moment I couldn't back down from. This was my chance to prove to myself, and to everyone in this room, that I was more than just the Omega who had been rejected. I was Lena, the Luna, and I was ready to lead. Kale stepped forward, his silver eyes locking with mine as he spoke, his voice carrying the authority of the Alpha King. "Lena has my full support," he said, his words unwavering. "She is my mate, and she will be your Luna. Together, we will lead this pack into a new era." His words, simple yet powerful, filled the room with a sense of unity. I could see the pack members looking at each other, nodding in agreement. Some still looked uncertain, but I could see the change in the air. I had a place here now, and with Kale by my side, I knew I could do this. "Now," Kale continued, "we have a lot of work to do. The packs around us are growing restless, and we need to ensure that we remain strong. We will meet with the neighboring packs, and we will form alliances that will ensure the survival and prosperity of this pack." His gaze shifted to me, and for a brief moment, I felt a wave of warmth wash over me. I wasn't just here to be Kale's mate. I was here to help guide this pack, to stand by his side and face whatever came next. "Lena and I will work together," Kale said, "and we will do what is necessary to protect this pack. But we need your loyalty, your trust, and your strength." The room remained silent for a moment, but then, one by one, the pack members began to nod, some even standing to show their support. A sense of pride swelled within me as I realized that this was it. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I wasn't just the Omega who had been abandoned. I wasn't just the broken girl who had no place in the world. I was the Luna, and I had a purpose. As the meeting ended, Kale turned to me, his silver eyes softening. "You did well," he said, his voice low and sincere. "You're going to be a great Luna." I smiled at him, the warmth in my chest growing as I looked at him. "I couldn't have done it without you," I said softly. "Thank you for believing in me." Kale reached out, pulling me into his arms. "I've always believed in you, Lena," he whispered, "even when you didn't believe in yourself." In that moment, I realized just how far I had come. I had been lost, broken, and rejected. But now, I had found my place. With Kale by my side, I knew I could face anything. Together, we would lead the pack into a new era, and I would be the Luna I was always meant to be. I woke up the next morning with a sense of purpose that I had never known before. The sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a soft glow over the room, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I belonged somewhere. I was no longer the Omega who had been rejected and cast aside by my pack. I was Lena, the Luna of the Alpha King, and I had a role to play in this world. The weight of that responsibility was both heavy and empowering. I stood up and stretched, feeling the strength that had been building inside me ever since I had stepped into this new life. I had a family now, a purpose, and someone who believed in me. Kale. I thought of him and the way his silver eyes had looked at me with such warmth and trust. He had chosen me, and now, I was choosing to be the Luna he needed. As I walked through the palace, the familiar sense of awe and wonder filled me. The grand hallways, the towering columns, the intricate tapestries that lined the walls, all of it had once felt so foreign to me. But now it was my home. The pack members I passed in the halls greeted me with nods and respectful glances, and for the first time, I didn't feel out of place. I was part of this world, and I was ready to take my place by Kale's side. When I reached the study where Kale was meeting with his advisors, I hesitated for a moment before knocking softly on the door. "Come in," Kale's voice called from inside, and I pushed the door open, stepping into the room. Kale looked up from the table where he was reviewing maps and plans. His eyes softened when he saw me, and he smiled. "Good morning, Lena," he said warmly, standing up from his seat. "I hope you're feeling ready for today. We have a lot of work to do." I smiled back at him, the familiar warmth in my chest spreading. "I'm ready," I said, my voice steady. Kale stepped forward and placed a hand on my shoulder. "I know you are," he said, his voice filled with pride. "We're going to face this together, just like we've always said." I nodded, feeling the weight of his words settle in my heart. Together, we would face the challenges ahead, and together, we would make this pack stronger than ever. As we sat down at the table and began to discuss the plans for the day, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement. This was my life now. This was my destiny. The pack needed me, and I was ready to be the Luna they deserved. The meeting was long, filled with discussions of strategy, alliances, and the future of the pack. Kale and I worked side by side, making decisions and offering our input. I was surprised at how comfortable I felt in this new role, how natural it was to be by Kale's side, making these important decisions. I was no longer just an outsider. I was a part of this world, and I had a voice. As the meeting drew to a close, Kale turned to me with a look of approval. "You did well today," he said, his silver eyes sparkling. "You're starting to see the bigger picture." I smiled, feeling a sense of pride swell in my chest. "I'm learning from the best," I said softly. Kale chuckled and placed his hand on mine. "We're learning together," he said, "and I couldn't ask for a better partner." His words filled me with warmth, and I realized just how far I had come. From the broken Omega who had been rejected to the Luna of the Alpha King, I had found my place. I had found my purpose. "Thank you," I whispered, squeezing his hand. "For everything." Kale smiled and leaned down to kiss my forehead. "This is just the beginning, Lena," he said. "We have a lifetime ahead of us, and I'm looking forward to every moment of it." As the day went on, I felt a renewed sense of strength and determination. This was my life now, and with Kale by my side, I knew that I was ready for anything. Together, we would lead the pack into a new era, and we would face whatever challenges came our way. I was no longer the outcast. I was no longer the Omega who had been rejected. I was Lena, the Luna, and this was just the beginning of our journey. I stood beside Kale, looking out over the vast land that stretched out before us. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden hue across the horizon, and for the first time in my life, I felt at peace. The world, with all its uncertainty, felt right. I had once been the broken Omega, rejected and abandoned by my pack, but now I was the Luna of the Alpha King, standing beside the man who had chosen me, who had given me a purpose. Everything had changed, but the one thing that remained constant was Kale. He was my rock, my anchor. And together, we had built something stronger than I could have ever imagined. "You've come a long way, Lena," Kale said softly, his voice carrying a quiet pride. He reached out, gently brushing a lock of hair behind my ear, his touch sending a comforting warmth through me. "You've grown stronger than I ever thought possible." I smiled at him, feeling the weight of his words settle in my heart. "I couldn't have done it without you," I replied. "You believed in me when no one else did. You showed me that I could be more than just the Omega I once was." Kale's silver eyes softened, and he pulled me closer, his embrace warm and steady. "I've always believed in you," he whispered, "and I always will." As the days passed, I settled into my new life as Luna. The responsibilities of leading the pack were overwhelming at times, but Kale was always there to guide me, to help me find my way. Together, we made decisions, formed alliances, and strengthened the pack. We became a force to be reckoned with, not because of our power, but because of the bond we shared. A bond built on trust, love, and respect. The pack slowly began to accept me, And though there were still whispers and doubts in some corners, I knew I had earned my place. I wasn't just Kale's mate anymore. I was Lena, the Luna, and I had proven that I was capable of standing beside him as an equal. But despite all the progress we had made, there were still challenges ahead. There were enemies who wanted to see us fail, who wanted to tear our pack apart, but I wasn't afraid anymore. With Kale by my side, I knew we could face anything. We had already overcome so much, and nothing could break the bond we shared. As we sat together one evening, watching the stars twinkle in the night sky, I felt a sense of fulfillment I had never known before. The future was uncertain, but with Kale, I knew we could build a life that was worth living. A life filled with love, strength, and hope. We've come a long way, haven't we? I said, my voice barely a whisper. Kale smiled, his hand finding mine and squeezing gently. We have, he agreed, and we've only just begun. I leaned my head on his shoulder, feeling the comfort of his presence as we sat in the quiet of the night, knowing that no matter what the future held, we would face it together. No longer would I be the rejected Omega. No longer would I feel like an outcast. I was Lena, the Luna, and this was my life. Together, Kale and I would lead our pack into a future where no one would ever have to feel the pain of rejection again. Our journey had just begun, and I was ready for whatever came next. In a world where werewolves rule, Lena, a rejected Omega, finds herself alone and abandoned, until fate brings her to the Alpha King, Kale. The journey of this werewolf story follows Lena as she navigates the complexities of pack life, discovering her strength and her true place as Kale's Luna. As the once broken Omega rises to become an essential leader in the werewolf world, she must learn to trust in herself and the bond she shares with Kale. Through battles and alliances, Lena and Kale's connection grows stronger, proving that no one is ever truly alone in the werewolf world. This epic tale of love, power, and destiny is a must-watch for anyone who loves werewolf romance and fantasy, filled with twists and emotional growth. Join Lena and Kale as they face the challenges of ruling together, where loyalty, trust, and love bind their hearts in a world where werewolves thrive. Don't miss this captivating journey of a werewolf-mate bond that defies all odds.